can't just think your way out of a trauma bond. You can't just think your way into healing trauma. You can't just think your way into thriving after narcissistic abuse. You have to have strategy, intention, awareness. You have to have somatic tools and deep trauma healing like that too. Do you feel like you're really struggling to let go of your relationship with the narcissist, and those around you just keep saying, just ignore them, don't communicate with them? If that sounds like you, then in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about trauma bonding, addiction, and some very exciting news. Hi everybody, my name is Caroline Strawson and welcome to Trauma and Narcissism Redefined, your weekly dose of education, bit of fun, inspiration and healing and thriving after trauma and narcissistic abuse. So before I dive in a little bit more about sort of just desperately trying to stop your communication, because I know what it's like, you know in your head, I need to stop, but you really struggle to let go. And there are reasons for that. And actually, even in this short podcast episode that I'm sharing with you today, I'll dive in a little bit deeper with that. But I am hosting a free masterclass this Sunday, on Sunday, the 9th of March. So if you're listening to it this week, as I've gone out live, then obviously you can come and join me live. If you're listening to it thereafter, then obviously please still register, because I'll send you the recording. Now, for you to register, for you to come and join me, it's at 8 o'clock UK time, 3 Eastern and 12 Pacific time. I'm going to pop the link in the show notes for you to register. Do make sure you enroll, whether you join me live or not, because I will send you the recording. And if you are listening to it after the 9th of March, still register and we'll send you the link, or drop me an email at hello@carolinestrawson.com. We'll send you the link. You know, this is probably one of the hardest things for me about trauma bonding, because it is an actual physiological addiction in the body. And I'll talk about hormone secretion, what happens in the brain and in the body, because simply saying to somebody, just ignore them. And I remember my dad saying this to me so many times. You know, sadly, my mum passed away before myself and my ex-husband split up. But my dad always used to say to me when I'd be getting these text messages, just ignore him. And there was an element of, I want to, but I just have to reply. And I don't know whether you can relate to that. And I'll talk about some of those in a moment. The other exciting thing that I want to share with you, you've probably seen over the last couple of months, I've been talking about the relaunch of my podcast, and it's happening and I'm so excited. So whilst this podcast at the moment is called Trauma and Narcissism Redefined, that name will be changing on Tuesday, the 8th of April, 2025. So mark that date in your diary, because this podcast with this name will be no more. Still the same channel, still everything else is the same on YouTube, on Spotify, iTunes, etc. But I'm changing the title of my podcast to No Visible Bruises, Survivor Stories of Narcissistic Abuse, Domestic Abuse and Coercive Control. And what I'm going to be doing is live interview therapy sessions with people just like yourself here at my offices here in Northamptonshire. So I've already got a list of people that have filled in the application form to come on, because you need to look at legally, can you speak about this? And these sessions are going to be more about you asking me questions. You know, why did they do this? Why did they do that? So you can literally quiz me on some of the things that you feel really stuck on. But in that hour session that we're going to have together, I'm also going to be giving some therapy and coaching. So I'm trained in many different somatic modalities like somatic experiencing, IFS, EMDR, breathwork, positive psychology, hypnotherapy, to name but a few. And I integrate all of this together when I'm working with my clients. So you will see how I actually work individual with clients, because in those sessions, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. And I know some of the stuff I'll be doing, you will be able to do, you will be able to take away. And obviously some of the questions that people are asking me are probably the questions that you want to know. So I know, and I'm really, really excited, and I'd love, love, love your support in all of this too. So on Tuesday, the 8th of April, it will be rebranded. Please share it with as many people as possible. It took me ages to come up with that name, and No Visible Bruises for me really represents a real reaction in my own body, because I didn't realize I'd been in an abusive relationship. You know, I didn't have any visible bruises, so I didn't realize I'd been in an abusive relationship, because it's not taught in schools about psychological abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, coercive control. I didn't understand all of those things. I didn't realize I'd been abused by a narcissist in a psychologically, emotionally, financially abusive way. And that's what made me feel really stupid and isolated, and I felt really filled with shame. So the no visible bruises for me, and the thing that I'm really, really passionate about, is talking about the unseen abuse, the abuse that isn't necessarily physical, the abuse that goes on internally for us. And, you know, I'm really raising the bar here, and I want to be a really big voice talking about things around domestic abuse and coercive control, which are the societal kind of terminology that seems acceptable. But that doesn't mean I'm not talking about narcissistic abuse, because I am, because we need to talk about it, because like you, like me, we've experienced narcissistic abuse. And when we're talking about a narcissist, they are very specific character traits of somebody who is a narcissist, which makes it very, very difficult to facilitate change in them. And also things go on behind closed doors. They're very, very aware of how they operate publicly and how they operate privately. So I'm really excited to be sharing that with you. I've got filming here at my offices on the 19th of March, and then we will be going live with our first episode on the 9th of April, which you can catch it on all of the obviously podcast platforms, but also you can watch it on YouTube as well. And while some of the guests will be visible too, some of them may be anonymous, I'd also love to invite you maybe to apply to come and be a guest on my podcast. Now, it will be live, so my apologies to some of you who maybe live in the US or Australia or anywhere else in Europe, Canada, etc., because I know ultimately the stories globally need to be shared. But that doesn't mean I'm not maybe going to do a tour and maybe go and record in some other countries as well. So even if you are in a different country right now, you'll see some of those questions. Just put, you know, you could do live if I came to your country and where that would be. Or if you can get here to the UK in Northamptonshire, which is about an hour on the train north of London, then, you know, you're more than welcome to put in your application there too, because I want to be choosing lots and lots of different stories, and everybody has a voice to be heard. But I want to try and pick ones that I know are really relevant to the majority of you right now, but throwing in some other stories as well with this, because I think it's really, really important too. So I'm excited about that. Can't wait for you to see some of the branding side of things, all of the different elements. So no visible bruises, survivor stories of narcissistic abuse, domestic abuse and coercive control, launching on Tuesday, the 9th of April. And I would absolutely, in fact, it's the 8th of April. 8th of April is the podcast, 9th of March is the Masterclass. God, I'm getting all my dates mixed up. Oh, my goodness. I don't know whether that's kind of menopause brain a little bit there. So Tuesday, the 8th of April, podcast relaunch. And this Sunday, the 9th of March, is my free masterclass. I'll pop both of those links in the show notes for you. One for you to register for the masterclass. Make sure you do that now. And the other one, if you want to apply to be a guest on my podcast. And please, please, please support me with this. I would absolutely love your support, because it is a passion very, very close to my heart. And I feel like genuinely, I feel like what I have experienced has brought me to where I am, to be a voice for all of us. And funnily enough, I actually shared a story with somebody yesterday, and they said, have you shared that publicly? And I have a little bit, but I want to just share this story with you and see if you can relate. So when obviously I was married to my ex-husband, who was a covert narcissist, I didn't realize I was in an abusive relationship. I didn't realize. It was only when I came out and I carried on having counseling, actually from the person who was doing marriage counseling for us, and he'd been trained in psychotherapy too. I remember him telling me to go and Google certain phrases and words, and they were just like these light bulb moments for me. But it was really scary as well, because I thought I was an intelligent woman. How could I be in an abusive relationship? Those two sentences didn't feel like they gelled together. Now, when I was still married, my mum was still alive. Now, my mum was my rock. You may well have heard me talk about both my parents, my mother and my father. So my father very much has narcissistic traits. My mother was highly codependent. So her worth was very much about being a mum, which made her the best mum ever. But it also made a lot of responsibility on my shoulders, I felt, to maintain my mum's sense of worth by being the youngest child. So I've got two older sisters. And my mum was just a phenomenal woman. And sadly, she passed away in 2009, very suddenly. She had severe rheumatoid arthritis, again, which is why I'm really passionate. She got that in her early 30s. And 80% of autoimmune disorders are in female people pleasers. Made so much sense. One of the reasons I trained in internal family systems, which is an evidence-based parts therapy, was because one of the first pieces of research and evidence was around treating rheumatoid arthritis as a protector part. It made so much sense. You know, I always used to feel really sorry for my mum being in pain all the time, but actually now I realise that part of her, the pain part of her arthritis, that's what she focused on, as opposed to the emotional pain of the child that had been traumatized because her father left her when she was younger too. So there was a lot of trauma that I could start to see with my mum and realize where the arthritis had come from. She was suppressing her own voice perpetually in a survival response, leading, remember, when we're perpetually in a survival response, all of our other systems in our body, they are not operating optimally. Our immune system, our digestive system, our endocrine system. So you imagine if we're in survival mode, that's our primary focus as a human being, not all of the other systems, which is why many people start to suffer with chronic illnesses, because we're not functioning optimally. We're focused on survival. So, and I could really recognize this about my mother. But my mum passed away in 2009, and the following year is when myself and my ex-husband, we split up. And I am convinced to this day, and you may call this spiritual, however you want to call this, but had my mum been alive when me and my ex-husband split up, I probably wouldn't be recording this podcast right now, because had my mum been alive when me and my ex split up and I found out we were in over 70k debt, I was suffering myself with complex PTSD, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, self-harm, trying to be a mum to my two children who were nearly 3 and 6 years old at the time. I very much realised that that for me, had my mum been alive, I would have really relied on my mum. I'd have gone back to being the little girl, the kind of, oh, mummy. I mean, I'm over-exaggerating here, but you know what I mean. Because then my mum's role would have been great. She could look after me, and that was meaning she was really worthy because she was being a great mum, and I was being looked after and nurtured, which is what I wanted. But I didn't have that. My mum passed away the year before in 2009. So what did that mean? It meant, gosh, you can hear a lot of noise here. Sorry about that. They're redoing some offices upstairs, so I hope it's not distracting too much. And what it meant for me is I'd got my dad. One of my sisters lives in America. The other sister lives a while away, works full time. She was a head teacher at the time. And so it was down to me. My dad, obviously, with the narcissistic traits and that lack of emotional support with this. So it was kind of like it had to be me. Now, that didn't mean it was me to start off with, I hasten to add, because it took me about 3 years to actually start to heal, okay? So when people say to me, it's been a year, it's been so long, I'm like, hey, 3 years for me before I actually started to do something. I wanted to heal, but I hope time would heal. Time does not heal narcissistic abuse. It doesn't. Time doesn't heal trauma. You've got to work at a nervous system level. You've got to work in the body with all of this too. So I am convinced my mum passed away first, so that I literally had to hit rock bottom and literally had to crawl and claw my way out myself to learn all the things that I now learn, to do all the things that I now do. And I'm convinced my mum passed away to give me the voice and the strength and the resilience to be the voice for all of us. Because had it been the other way around, I wouldn't be this voice now. So I am convinced my mum passed away to, yes, I hit rock bottom, absolutely, because I'd not only going through the healing of narcissistic abuse, I'd lost my mum, I'd lost my mother. And I am convinced that this happened so that I could go out and be the voice for all of us. It gives me goosebumps talking about it because, I absolutely love my mum. My mum was my rock. She really, really was. But she was also my rock where I probably stayed more childlike with her too. So I had to actually look in the mirror and actually do it myself, which was really scary. And I know it's scary for many of you too. But that moment we take ownership and responsibility for ourselves and how we heal, not someone else to fix us or rescue us, that's where the true magic and the power happens in your healing. So I am convinced that my mum passed away first. And you may think I'm crazy feeling like that, and maybe I am. But I am convinced for that reason. And now that's why I'm so passionate about this work, because my mum experienced it. My grandmother experienced this. I experience this, and I'm a cycle breaker because I do not want my son or my daughter to experience this either. So I want you all to be a cycle breaker and a new generation starter of people who understand what the non-physical signs of abuse are. Just because there are no visible bruises doesn't mean the scars don't run deep, and we've got to work at that nervous system level for that. Because probably like me, we are great at putting on a face. I'm fine, everything's great, how are you? Yeah, I used to do that all of the time, and inside I'm dying, thinking, oh, please just notice that I am just broken inside. And of course no one did, because I was really, really good at hiding it. But then I got really annoyed that no one would notice it. Double-edged sword, right? And I'm sure many of you can relate to that. Which is why, again, I know for the first 3 years, I really struggled with my communication with my ex-husband, because I kept thinking maybe it'll be okay, because he'd be maybe nice a little bit one minute and then he'd be vile the next minute, and I'd be like, right, that's it. And then he'd be nice again. And I was kind of in this back and forth, and I felt really, really stuck. And I'm not joking when I said it was probably at least 3 years that I was stuck like this. And I don't want you to feel like that. This is why I'm so interested and what I talk about, not just the psychology of domestic abuse, narcissistic abuse, it's the physiology side of it, because it's really de-shaming. There are physical reasons why we struggle to let go. It's not just because you're weak, which you might think other people might think, like, just ignore them, just don't respond. Yeah, if it was that easy, wouldn't we all be doing it? The physiological side of that is there are hormones, there are secretions in the body that happen. There is an abuse cycle. All of these things I'm going to be explaining and educating you on Sunday night, where I'm going to be talking to you about breaking that trauma bond, because it is actually a physiological addiction to narcissistic abuse. That may seem a ridiculous thing to say. How can I be addicted to abuse? I will explain all of this on Sunday night, because let me tell you, when you get all of this, and when I do my masterclasses, I'm really focused on education. I want you to really understand what's happening inside your brain and your body, because when you do, we can do something about it, because you can't just think your way out of a trauma bond. You can't just think your way into healing trauma. You can't just think your way into thriving after narcissistic abuse. You have to have strategy, intention, awareness. You have to have somatic tools and deep trauma healing like that too. So this is why, make sure you register for this masterclass on Sunday night. It could be the most important masterclass, because if you can't break that trauma bond right from the start when you're trying to heal, you are going to be stuck for a very long time. And don't be as stuck as I was for 3 years plus, okay? Don't do what I did. I want to share with you how you can avoid doing it for that long, okay? Because genuinely, you can break that trauma bond, but we need to start with that understanding first. So make sure you register for the masterclass now. Make sure maybe you fill in the application for my new podcast, No Visible Bruises, starting on the 8th of April too. And if you're listening to this after, still apply to be a guest at any point, because I'll need, there'll be 4 episodes every month that we have. And if it's beyond the date of the live masterclass, either register, because we'll send you the recording on that link, or drop me an email at hello@carolinestrawson.com. We heal together here, and I want us to be a voice. Also, if you're not in my broadcast channel on Instagram, I'll pop the link in the show notes for you as well. I'd love you to come there, because that's where I'll share some of the things, like when the podcast drops, all of those things, information, so you don't miss anything, basically. I also put little tidbits of healing ideas, little things that can help and support you. And, I'm trying to build up that channel, because I know just being able to see in your inbox regularly just some tips and tools and things that can help you. It's just to remind you you're not on your own, because you're not on your own in any of this. And, that's what I'm here for. I want to be right by your side, helping you on your healing process, helping you understand, because I know it can feel really, really lonely. So take care, my friends. Make sure you register now. Maybe apply for the podcast. I can't wait to share with you all about the physiology of trauma bonds, the addictions to narcissistic abuse, which sounds so strange, but you'll understand when I share that with you too, because simply saying ignore time will heal. Doesn't cut it. It really, really doesn't. And I know, because it didn't work for me, and I don't want that to happen for you. So have a fantastic week. I look forward to seeing many of you on Sunday night, because I'll also always stay and answer any of your questions too, because I love answering your questions. So if you've got a burning question, you can come and ask me live on Sunday, and I would love and be honoured. But there are limited spaces, remember, so do make sure you register. So take care, my friends, and I'll see you on the next episode as countdown to the new podcast begins.